John Meadows, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's thanks for agreeing to do it to doing this interview. I know you because at least for a time we worked out at the same gym, the Lifetime Fitness in Pickerington, and you kind of befriended one of my weight training partners, Paul Majewski.
Are you still going there?
Yeah. I still going. I'm getting my 5 days in.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I you've had such a successful athletic career, right? With bodybuilding, and then you've sort of turned that into your website with all of the training programs and the nutrition stuff that you're doing, the training athletes, and of course your YouTube channel is blowing up. All of this stuff seems to have sort of stemmed from a passion that you obviously have for bodybuilding.
That is true, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what got you started bodybuilding?
Well, so I'm a pretty rare, unique case. So I actually figured out I loved bodybuilding when I was 12 years old. And I loved it just because I looked at magazines and I loved the way it looked. And I understand that's very odd for a 12-year-old to look at a magazine and go, man, I want to look like that someday. But that's what happened. I love pro wrestling, right? So I was a big Road Warriors fan. And I would go to the store and I would sit down in the little aisle by the magazines. I'd look at all the wrestling magazines. And one day I looked over and I saw Muscle and Fitness. And I was like, that's interesting. These guys look like the wrestlers. They look like Tony Atlas. They look like Paul Orndorff, Ivan Putski, all these big muscular wrestlers. So I looked in there and I was like, wow, these guys, man, they're even bigger. Like, these guys are amazing. And that was back when Lee Haney was he won his first Mr. Olympia in 1984. And I was hooked immediately. In 1985, I competed in my first show at 13 years old. Wow. And I remember watching the Mr. Olympia like it was yesterday in 1985. And I was just hooked. I said, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. And so it was a lifelong passion and dream of mine. And I loved it just because I loved it and for no other reason. I just loved the sport.
Yeah. A buddy of mine, I had a similar experience with weightlifting and training, and me and my buddy Anthony Woodcock. Anthony's my best friend from growing up, and we trained in my parents'. Well, it was my house because I was living there, but what's my parents' basement, which is like it's up in Michigan, right? It's like a dungeon down there, right? And it leaks like crazy. There's a sump pump that's going off every, 20 minutes or something, draining the water. And we had one of these old benches that, I couldn't even fit on that bench now. And we, same thing, looking at magazines and things. And Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lee Haney, though those were the two guys. And I was 14. We were both 14 when we started. Our mistake was that we were so excited about it that we started training, but we were training the same body part like every day. And we were like, why do we keep getting weaker?
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, I although I wanted to compete, I've had some issues with injuries. I've had issues with both my shoulders. I had surgery on my right shoulder. I had Achilles tendon surgery, and I had some issues with my knees and things. And I started cutting weight. I was getting close to where I was going to actually compete in my first competition, and I wasn't doing it right. I didn't really know what I was doing. I injured myself. Somebody told me that a common thing that happens is as you're cutting, you can damage like tendons, and that's definitely what happened to me. I had some tendon tears and stuff, and so that kind of shortened the life of that for me. Although I think at some point I would like to do that. I've kind of shifted to focusing more on like powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've seen you in the gym, and you're a beast. You're huge, and how strong are you? Because I think that's one thing I think people, when they look at guys that are as big as you are, that's probably a question that immediately arises. Man, that dude's got to be super strong.
Well, I'm only about 210 pounds now. I think when I saw you last, I was probably 225. Mm-hmm. I hit my strength peak for my legs back in about 1995 or 96 when I was 23, 24 years old. That's when I was squatting around 800 pounds. Wow. And I weighed about 225, 230 back then. And my strength held up until I was about 42 or 43. And then my back just couldn't hold that weight on I just couldn't. I could do the weight, but the next couple of days I'd be crippled. My spine would hurt so bad. So about 5 years ago, I had to get away from the squats, which I loved. And my upper body strength was, I think I hit my peak about 40 years old on upper body strength. So my peak on my upper body came a lot later in life, which I think was kind of interesting. And, I was inclining 315 for sets of 12 to 15 reps when I was 40. Oh. And then again, when I hit about 43 years old, it just started dropping. And now I can do 275 for maybe 6 or 7. So nothing like I used to do. So, I did powerlift in 1995 and 96 over West Side Barbell with Louie. And I certainly was pretty strong then. Nowadays, I do my best, but I'm not trying to break any records or anything. I just want to feel good, and I just want to look good. I just want to be healthy. So my goals are much different now than they were, when I was competing in bodybuilding and powerlifting. So I still enjoy it the same, and I still work hard, but you also got to weigh risk versus reward, particularly as you get older. And there's certain exercises that present a lot of risk and not a whole lot of reward. And so I try to pick and choose my exercises carefully. I try to make sure I'm good and warmed up, and I don't go overly heavy. There's no reason for me to do a heavy set of 3 or 4. There's just no value in that. I'd rather do 8 reps, 9 reps, 10 reps, keep the joints healthy. Knock on wood, I'm pretty healthy, joint wise. I haven't had any surgeries for anything. I've never, I've been banged up. I've had tendonitis in about every area you can get it, and my joints have hurt before. But all in all, now I'm pretty good though. So I'm just trying to stay healthy and stay in one piece.
Now you're a little older than I am. You're 48.
48, yes.
48. I'm 46. And now a strange thing that happened with me is during the time I think that supposedly I was supposed to have the most upper body strength for the amount of time I've been training, but it wasn't the case. And a lot of it, I think, had to do with issues with my shoulders. But I think also like a bad approach, just bad technique, and just I was injuring myself and doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. But I started to hit a stride where I started to train more progressively, and it gives me longer to warm up. So what I was doing before is like, okay, I'll warm up with like 135, and then I'm talking about bench press. So I've warmed up for like 135, then maybe do like a set of 225, maybe 5 or 6 reps or something. Okay, all right, now if I'm going to be able to hit something heavy, now this is the time to do it, right? And that approach just, it seemed like it hurt me more than it helped.
That's you need more than that. Yeah.
And so now I actually, a lot of this is all of it's thanks to Paul, actually, because I basically just started emulating his. Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video. Workout routine. And it's 135, 225, 275, 315, 365, like that. So it's climbing up that way.
Yeah.
And but I'm as strong as I've ever been. Now, my max is 415. I'm trying to get to 430. Once I break that, I want to get to 455 or something like this. I'm chasing 500. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to get there or not. But if I do have a chance of getting there, it's going to have to be probably between now and probably when I'm about 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting kind of pursuit. I don't know that a lot of people understand the desire or what keeps somebody religiously going to the gym, always going to the gym, the sweating, the struggle, the consistency. And there's a lot of discipline, I think, that can be developed in this. Now, my job is I'm a musician. I'm the director of jazz studies at Ohio State, and I'm a fitness advocate. So I'm always trying to get my students and other people around me interested in going to the gym to do something. And maybe it doesn't have to be weight training, but it's got to be something. What I know that you're obviously a fitness advocate. What are some thoughts you have about that, and maybe some approaches to try to get people more interested in doing physically, strenuous activities to promote health?
Well, I mean, I think there's a number of things you have to look at. I think if something is not fun for somebody, it's hard for them to stick with it. So there has to be an element of enjoyment in it. And, for some people, they just need to experiment and to find some things they like. Some people don't necessarily enjoy it. Maybe they need to understand the benefit they get from it. So, let's say somebody has a health issue. Maybe you can educate them on how staying more fit and healthy. Mm-hmm. Let's say they have type 2 diabetes. Maybe you can help them understand how a better diet and exercising can stabilize their blood sugar, for example. So they need to understand the benefit of it. So, for me, I just loved it to love it. But not everybody's that way. Not everybody's built that way. Some people, like I said, they need to enjoy it. They need to have fun. If they don't like it, what happens when people don't like it is they look for excuses to not do it. And they eventually will find an excuse. And it'll be, well, I was too busy, or, well, I had this come up, or, well, I had that come up. Whereas me, it's like, no, I'm going to get them to go to the gym. Like, I'm going to go. Not, unless somebody dies or something's real serious, then I don't wake up and go, am I going to go to the gym today? It's part of my routine. A lot of people, when they see something change their life in a positive way, and then they start to enjoy it more too. So sometimes people don't enjoy it at first, but then once they start seeing, I always said there's nothing that motivates like success. So then once they start seeing some success, hey, wow, I lost 20 pounds, or, my sleep apnea is better. Now I can sleep better, or, man, I have energy now, or I'm stronger now. I can carry my kids around better. Like, when they start to see and realize benefits, then they get more motivated, and then they actually do start to enjoy it. So I think you got to consider there's different personality types. Some kids might maybe they just don't see the benefit. Maybe they don't care. And those are certainly the hard people to get through to, because if they don't care, they're just probably not going to do it. But I always kind of looked at the people who really wanted to do it and tried to help them, or the people who were undecided. The people who just aren't going to do it, I'd rather spend my time focusing on the people that will do it. It's kind of like, people Are you going to spend more time with your friends, or are you going to spend more time with people you don't really know? Maybe you don't even really like them. Like, that's a pretty obvious choice to me. So I'm going to try to help the people who want to be helped, and the people who don't want to be helped, that'll probably drag you down in the process. See, I used to train in person back in the 90s at World Gym, and I got out of that. And, I love the gym. So why would I get out of that? Well, because many of the people I trained back then, they didn't really want to be there. They weren't very motivated. And it drained my emotional energy trying to get them excited, trying to push them. Like when it would come time for me to train, I would be emotionally just drained. I mean, it would be like for you, like let's say you had students all day that just couldn't stand music. They just had to be there. So then you're constantly trying to get them to like it, and you're listening to them. I don't like this. I don't like this. And you're constantly trying to get them to do it. Then let's say you want to practice at 8 o'clock at night. You might not even want to deal with it. You might just be, man, I'm tired from dealing with this all day. And that's how I felt. I just was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to bang. I'm going to go hard, and I'm going to go home. And I've been like that ever since.
Yeah. I as soon as you started saying, the thing about training folks that don't want to go and it being emotionally depleted, the first thing I thought about was, what teachers, music teachers, you have some students that you teach them and they're giving you everything back that you're giving to them. And it's like very rewarding. And then there's some students that you have, and it's like all day long, you have the student scheduled, and it's going to be like pulling teeth, and it's going to be depleting and not give anything back. And it does exactly that. I mean, it can, especially after dealing with that for long periods of time, it can start getting really draining and kind of take your own, your own motivation away. Now, something I talk to my students about often, and I use a lot of weightlifting analogies because there's like a physical nature of it. So it's a pretty effective way to take things that are somewhat abstract, things that you can't kind of see three-dimensionally, and use something like weight training that you can see physically, and so, when we're talking about stuff like discipline, consistently going to practice, you get in the practice room, and sometimes you want to do it and sometimes you don't want to do it, but, you're there. Let's make the best out of it. Sometimes you're super motivated. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes I go to the gym, like this morning, matter of fact, I got to the gym this morning and I was talking to my wife, in the car, and we were talking for about 20 minutes or something in the car. And I had to tell her, I'm starting to think of excuses for why I'm not going to go in the gym. So can we talk later? Because if I don't go in the gym right now, I might not make it in the gym.
Yeah, right.
And, so you never feel that way?
Oh, no. I feel that way sometimes. Sometimes I don't want to go in there, but it's not a choice, man. I'm going to get in there. Yeah. Unless I have like scheduled time off. There's times when I think that it's physiologically smarter to take some time off the rest of the body up. That's one thing. But just to get up and go, I'm not going in today. No, that doesn't happen. But, once you get there, like I'm guessing that once you got in there and you did something, you're glad you did it. Right. And that's the same thing with me. I may not want to go there, but when I get there and I at least get something done, may not been the best workout in the world. I may not have broken any records, but hey, I got in here, I got some work in, and that's better than nothing.
Yeah, and actually what happened today is I got in there and I had a PR.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah, so it's but it's not always that way. Sometimes, you get in there and it's like, okay, at least I got it in. At least I got something in. I'm sweating, okay, let me get a shower. Okay, I feel better. One reason I like to go to the gym in the morning is that if I don't do anything else for the whole day, at least I got something positive done. Like right from the jump, like first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
Okay, so with bodybuilding, especially pro bodybuilding, can you talk a little bit about PEDs and maybe how they affect the body? I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of folks that are going to be watching this that don't know anything about bodybuilding, or why people would use PEDs, or even what PEDs are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a part of bodybuilding for sure. Like for people to deny it, they're just not being truthful with you. So PEDs, it goes well beyond the realm of just anabolic steroids. I mean, we're talking growth hormones, we're talking thyroid hormones, we're talking, insulins, we're talking EPOs, things that boost your red blood cells. There are a lot of different kinds of drugs that are used in bodybuilding, and not just bodybuilding, they're used in many, many major sports, and track and field at the highest levels. Certainly in football, there's certain things that aren't detectable. Of course, the thing with baseball happened, and they kind of shut that down. But when you get people that have millions of dollars at stake or a career, then you got people that are willing to say, okay, well, I'm going to do a little extra. This might land me a huge contract. I mean, think about Barry Bonds. Think about how he looked. Then think about how he looked later in his career. All of a sudden, he got massive, right? Look at Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens was near the edge of retirement. I'm a Houston Astros fan. When they picked him up, I was like, man, he's done. And then all of a sudden, he's a monster again. And I remember my doctor telling me he's taking growth hormone. And I remember thinking, why would a pitcher take growth hormone? Like, I would think more of a batter, somebody who's hitting the ball. But growth hormone rejuvenates tendons and connective tissue and ligaments. And so Roger Clemens all of a sudden is throwing fireballs again. He's dominating. And, I could tell you stories about people at the high level in track and field, especially the sprinters, but well beyond that, almost every event. The people in the Tour de France, people do cycling, all the EPO that they take to boost their red blood cell count, so they have constant levels of oxygen. So whenever you have a lot of money on the stake, when you have careers at stake, I knew a bodybuilder, his name was Mohammed Ben Aziza, and he was one of my favorites. He came from Algeria. Came from a very poor family, and he was a tremendous bodybuilder. And he ended up dying in a contest because he was so dehydrated. He took a lot of diuretics. The most dangerous drug in bodybuilding, by the way, it's diuretics. That's what kills people in bodybuilding. So he took so many diuretics, and he didn't drink water. So, he had this, what they call a dry look on stage. It actually killed him. He dehydrated. They called the ambulance. The medics came. They saw he had, and they actually gave him potassium, which is not what you want when sodium's low, potassium's high. It actually put him in a cardiac arrest and killed him. But people were like, oh, Momo's stupid. What was he doing? But people didn't realize the money that Muhammad was making in his contest, he was sending back home to his family in Algeria because they had no way to live. He had a reason for doing that. And I'm not saying everybody does, but I'm just saying that circumstances dictate what people do. And if someone says, well, I can be a mediocre player, or I can be a guy who gets a $7 million contract, I mean, let's be honest here. It's real tempting. And you look at bodybuilding, I can be a professional, or I can be just another guy that competes at the local level in the Mr. Columbus, so I could have an advantage. Now in bodybuilding, there's so many people do it, it's not even really an advantage. Everybody does it. I don't want to say everybody, but the good bodybuilders, like the professional bodybuilders, they all do certain things. So it exists in sports. To deny that it's out there is just not being truthful. So it definitely is a part of the sport, just to be 100% real with you.
Now, so with the thing that happened with baseball and sort of like the government and stuff trying to kind of step in and get involved with things, that stuff was just irritating to me because I understand the role of these drugs. And what I remember, it was on Arsenio Hall show when Lyle Alzado, who he died from cancer, and they were saying that it was due to steroids, like
which
him
have zero effect on cancer, zero.
right, and that was kind of the thing, like, hey, don't use steroids because this will happen to you, and this kind of thing, all the way from that to the stuff that with happening in baseball, and just the knowledge that in pro sports is all these drugs that are not detectable, and sometimes often actually athletes will take something because they have a a tendon tear.
Oh yeah.
And they just need to recover from that part of it, and then they get off of it after that's done. But all of that stuff is sort of blanketed all under the same sort of category. So who should be able to take PEDs in your estimation?
Well, I'll give you my opinion, man. It's a free country. Like, if you want to do that, I think it's your choice. You're not hurting anybody else. I'm a little bit liberal on that issue. I don't, there's a lot of men, for example, who take hormone replacement therapy, right? As you get older, your testosterone levels, for example, drop. Just basic science, just what happens.
Right.
And, if a guy takes a little testosterone, then you have all these people going, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. But, when a woman loses her hormone, she takes replacement therapy, and that's considered normal.
That's right.
But we got this huge double standard. Well, if a guy does that, and, if you look at the data, like on anabolics, you're not going to find a lot of deaths out there. You're just not going to find them, because guess what? They're not out there. Now, I personally don't advocate, particularly young people, to go out and do that stuff. Particularly young people. I've always thought that the best approach is to achieve the best you can naturally. And then if you want to go a different route, that's fine, but you should always have that base built. The drugs aren't a substitution for good training and good dieting. They're just not. And a lot of people, man, like when I go to the gym, I take hormone replacement therapy personally. I take 150 milligrams of testosterone a week, which is actually super, super low. But, I see 50 guys, through the course of a month at the gym that are taking 10 times what I am, and they don't look like they lift weights. Like, it's not a substitution for hard work. You've got to put in the work, and people just think they magically are just going to turn into Mr. Olympia. I'm like, that's not how it works. Right. You build a Corvette, and then that stuff polishes the Corvette. But you got to build the Corvette with hard work. You got to eat. You got to train. You can't just sit at home and pop a few pills and think you're going to wake up and be Mr. Olympia. Right. But I don't care what people do. I just don't care if it's not endangering other people. If it was something that endangered other people, I would be very much against it. So I think a wise person should be under the care of a doctor, though. And I think they should look at their blood work. Certain things have impacts on your lipid panel, your HDL, your good cholesterol, and certain things that you do. If you take too much growth hormone, for example, can raise your blood sugar. You got to be careful of that. So I think if you're going to go that route, you should be very mindful of your health and try to be healthy and stay in one piece. But now the problem you run into is doctors aren't educated on it. Yeah. They have they're still stuck in the Stone Ages of Lyle Alzado, right? And when I had my heart attack, the doctor said, are you taking any of this stuff? And I said, yeah, I take a little tiny bit of testosterone. And he's like, oh, I think that's what could have done it then. And I said, well, then why aren't there tens of thousands of guys having blood clots that are causing heart attacks out there? Like, I don't personally know anybody in bodybuilding that had a blood clot like I did. He's like, well, I don't know. And I said, but I don't fault him for that. They just have no education on it. And there is a lot of education out there. Dr. Serrano is a friend of mine. He sends me studies all the time on testosterone, its impacts on your body, and low testosterone, how it actually raises your chances of heart attacks and diabetes and depression. And, so I just think people should just get educated and be smart if they're going to do that stuff. That's all.
So what do you think about SARMs?
Well, the problem with SARMs is there's just not a lot of medical data on them. There's just not. I mean, they are, I've seen some studies on one called Ostarine in general that shows, it does hamper your natural testosterone levels. So if you take it long term, you could shut off your own testosterone permanently. I've seen how it negatively impacts your lipid panel. Your HDL goes down, your LDL goes up. So there's potential there for some, calcification in arteries later on, 20 years down the road. There's just not a lot of evidence on SARMs. A lot of them were under, they were in some studies, but then they just never became medically approved. So I don't really think that there's enough data out there to come to really good conclusions. Now, I took Ostarine probably 10 years ago. I tried it myself, and it definitely worked. But it always made me nervous that there just wasn't more information out there on it. So, I didn't take it anymore. But so it works. That stuff definitely works. And I can't tell you that it's going to be terrible for you, or maybe it's not. It's hard. It's really hard to say.
Okay. You said something. You were talking about. That's all right. I'll think of that question again if it comes back up. One thing that I did want to admit is my biggest challenge with fitness is not the gym. It's the kitchen.
Join the crowd.
Yeah. The kitchen is undefeated. The kitchen wins every time. The one thing that works for me is if I have absolutely everything laid out and within an arm's reach of where I'm sitting at any given time.
Yeah.
If I have that, then I can do it. And I can eat the same thing over and over. That doesn't bother me. But if I have to make a choice, that's when everything goes wrong.
Oh yeah.
I like black out, and then I come to and I have a bag of Wendy's, in a large chocolate Frosty.
Hey,
it's all half
Coke.
gone. Oh, right.
As long as you have the Diet Coke with it, you're gonna be fine. It balances out.
Right. So what is your advice to people that are having that issue? I mean, and I'm sure lots of people, everybody has that issue. I realize that, but how do you, how have you conquered that issue for yourself? Maybe that's a way to ask that.
I mean, so back in the old days in bodybuilding, we ate tuna and brown rice. Like, that's all we ate. We ate some egg whites. We ate maybe some dry baked potatoes. And honestly, it was terrible. Like, when that's all you eat, it's terrible. So luckily, there's been a lot more research and understanding of diets and how they impact people. So I follow what I call a 90-10 rule. So 90% of the time, I'm eating healthy food. And then the other 10% of the time, I'm eating whatever I want. Now, some people do it the opposite. They do 90% whatever they want, 10% nothing.
That's me.
So, but, like, if let's say I eat, 10 meals in 3 days, for example, then as long as 9 of those are pretty healthy, like, for example, tonight I had a chicken. I had blackened chicken on a low carb tortilla with some avocado and a tiny bit of sour cream. It was really good. So most of my meals are pretty good, but that 10th meal, I might go to First Watch and I might get blueberry pancakes, or I might get something else. I will enjoy myself. So I'm not under the pressure of weeks and weeks and weeks of eating perfect. And then the other thing is you can actually make food taste good. So when I eat chicken, like I said, blackened chicken with some spicy avocado on it. Like, I didn't just eat boiled plain chicken. It actually tasted good. And I think people forget that there's actual spices out there that taste good. There's oregano, there's garlic, there's all kinds of good stuff. There's Mrs. Dash stuff. I love buffalo wing hot sauce.
Yeah.
I put that on a lot of different things I eat. Like the meals I eat that are healthy, they still taste really good. It's not like I'm eating cardboard.
Yeah.
And even if I'm going to eat like cod, I actually love cod, but I love it with the buffalo wing sauce on it. When I eat chicken, I love it with buffalo wing sauce. If I eat some black eyed peas and rice, I put a little hot sauce in it. That's really good. So the other thing is, I would say make your food taste good. If someone says it's got to be all dry and bland, no, it doesn't have to be dry and bland. It doesn't have to be like that at all.
Yeah. So, and another question along those lines is, during times when you were trying to put on size, how often do you have to eat, and how much of it is actual food and how much of it is supplement, like whey protein?
Yeah. So I ate 6 meals a day for probably 20 years in a row, never missed a meal. And I had a corporate job for at least 10 of those years. Probably more like 14 of those years. So oftentimes I always made sure I was prepared. Like I used to work at JP Morgan Chase, and of course we would have meetings and things like that. So if there just happened to be a meeting, I was prepared. I had my protein shakes. I had the powder with me, and I had a shaker, so I could just go to the water fountain, fill it full of water, throw some protein powder in, and I could drink that. So I was always prepared. I had, like cashews or almonds. I had some healthy fats that I could, snack on. Doesn't mean you have to eat 6 times a day. Like that, you don't have to do that. That was just the approach I used. It was very systematic. It was breakfast. It was a 10 o'clock shake. It was lunch, a 3 o'clock shake, a pre-workout meal after work. And then I would train. Then I'd come home, eat a meal, and go to bed. Like I was very regimented like a machine. But, as long as your calories are right, you could eat 3 times a day. You could eat 4 times a day and you could do just fine. Now I eat 3 to 4 times a day. Maybe your meals are just a little bigger 3 times a day. That's fine too. It's really more about finding the amount of calories that work for you. I mean, that's really what's most important. I would tell you this too, though. If you're trying to gain muscle, I do think that a little bit more meals helps as opposed to less meals. So I do think that 4 meals is better than 2 meals. And just because you're putting protein in your body, which creates muscle protein synthesis. Right. So I don't like to, there's some people that do these feeding windows where they only eat 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And those are fine for caloric management, for caloric restriction. Those are fine. But when your goal is to just build a lot of muscle, I think the sweet spot's probably, 4 meals a day. I do think you should probably have protein every 3 to 5 hours is what I would say. I'm not a big fan of the 1 meal a day or maybe 2 meals a day approaches. I've never seen it work on other than beginners. Beginners it'll work, but like if you get someone who's been training a while like you or me, it's not going to work. You can burn body fat like that because you create a lot of caloric restriction and your body's in a caloric deficit. But even if you ate in a caloric surplus, let's say your maintenance was 3,500 calories. Let's say you ate 1 meal is 4,000 calories. I don't think you'd get the muscle growth as if you had 4 meals at 1,000 calories. Just my opinion. And actually, there's a lot of science to back that up too. Lane Norton's done a lot of work on that. There's a lot of labs that have done lots of studies on that. But there seems to be a sweet spot around that 4 meals, 5 meals, where you're getting enough protein systematically during the day to continue to build muscle.
So you mentioned that when you were working at JP Morgan Chase, so you left there in 2012, and that's when you started your Mountain Dog diet.
Well, I had already started it, but I was just overwhelmed. I was working during the day, then I would come home and do that at night, and I was working nonstop. I didn't have a life.
Right.
So I come to a point where I was like, I got to make a decision. I'm not doing really good at either job. I need to pick one thing and stick to it. And I had a good reputation at the bank, so I figured, hey, if this fails, I can go back to the bank. But in the health and fitness world, like my name is only going to be up there for so long. Like if I don't do something, people might forget about me. People come and they go, right? And there was a period of time from 2007 to 2012 where my name was really, high up there. So I just wanted to take advantage of it because, again, you can fade and people don't know who you are anymore. So I just wanted to take the opportunity and just go for it.
Well, I mean, it certainly has worked out for you. And your family, you have two twin boys?
Yes.
Yeah. How old are they now?
11.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be 12 in a month.
Yeah. Now, are they playing like football or anything?
They just finished. I actually coached them this year. They just finished last Saturday. So I have highlights. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, like maybe, I don't know, maybe 5-6 videos ago, you'll see the football highlights for the Pigrington Punishers.
Yeah.
We had an amazing team, and we won the championship, which is quite an accomplishment here. So
Yeah.
I am super happy, and I'm going to be happy until next year when we start over.
So that's got to be really rewarding having your sons. I have a son. He's 7, and he's ultra athletic. He's wild and crazy. He's tough as nails. He's trying to hit me, and every time I'm anywhere near him, he's trying to punch me in the stomach. Actually, it's helped me with some of my abdominal development there. And he's football, baseball, basketball, anything kind of sports. It's got to be a really rewarding kind of thing to have, to be able to coach your sons and have them do something athletic, especially with your career.
It's rewarding to coach my sons for sure. I love it, but not only that, just the team. All the kids.
Yeah.
They were great. They were fantastic. Amazing kids. So, my kids, sometimes it can be a little frustrating because like one of them is very athletic, but I can tell when he's turning it on, when he doesn't have it turned on, and I know what he can do. So it's like, come on, man, let's go. And then, my other one, he's real big. He's not as athletic, but he's real big and he's hard to block. So I can tell when he's dialed in and focused versus when he's not. So it can be frustrating too, because your kids so well. And then you get like that, of course, with the whole team. You understand who can do what. But I loved coaching my kids, no doubt. But the other kids too, I loved. It was an amazing experience, and I put a lot into it. Like probably of all the coaches, I'm probably the one that's the most crazy in terms of coaching, because I was filming all the games, I was studying tape. You'd think I was a scout in the NFL. I wanted to put my kids in the best position I could for them to win. And, they responded well, and we won, and we had a good time. But, when I commit to something, I put my heart into it. And that goes for anything in life I do. Like when I commit to something, just like I did bodybuilding, I go all out.
So behind me, there's some posing pictures of you. And that's an aspect of bodybuilding that's probably the part that I have the least experience with. I have a buddy, his name's Dwight Adams, and he's a great trumpet player. He actually taught at Ohio State, but I've known him for a long time. I've known him since we were both, when I was a kid, put it that way. He's a little older than I am. And he's the guy that actually I started training with once I moved to Ohio in 2004, and we were training at the gym over at Ohio State and everything. And he won the Mr. Michigan competition, 20 some, 30 some years. It's been a while. He won that competition, and he was a beast. And so I just emulated his thing, and we talked a little bit about posing and things, but that's part of it that what do you tell the your athletes, the folks that you're training, as far as, this is kind of a vague question, you can kind of go wherever you want to go with it, but as far as posing?
Well, you put all this work into building your body to look a certain way. You diet your brains out, you train your butt off. So you want to go out there and you want to represent your body as best you can. You want to pick poses that highlight your strengths. You want to hide your weaknesses. There's an artistic element to it where you want it to be enjoyable. You want to put a lot of work into that presentation part of it. And the presentation is very difficult. People don't understand how hard it is to get under those lights. Those lights are hot. I mean, you sweat your butt off. And holding those poses is not easy. You know, think about tensing your muscles. Think about like just sitting there and flexing your arms. Now think about doing that for 10 minutes straight, your whole body in various poses. Yeah. It gets really hard. And it takes a lot of practice. Now, a lot of people in the competitions, they don't put that much work into their posing, and it shows. They get up there and they look like an amateur. But then you get guys that are polished, they're really good, and it looks effortless. And those are the guys you seem to go, wow, man, he's got it, right? He's got it. And, you know, my career was a very, very long career. I competed in over 70 contests, and there were shows when I didn't put enough work into it, and it probably hurt me. And then there were shows like the picture behind you is from the Arnold Classic. I put a lot of work into posing for that show to represent myself as best I could. I was here in Columbus. My family was here to see me. My friends were here to see me. I wanted to make sure I represented myself as best I could. I wanted to look like a polished professional on stage. So it's a very underrated part of the fitness industry in these different classes. You know, and there's different classes. There's classic bodybuilding. There's regular bodybuilding. Women have figure classes. They have bikini classes. There's all these different classes that allow you to present your body a certain way. And it takes a lot of work to be good at it. It takes a lot of work.
I just remember some of the things that Dwight had me doing. Like we would train a body part, and he says, okay, now we're going to pose. So right after we got done doing the thing, and it was difficult for me to hold any kind of pose.
Yeah, it's hard.
You know, for like even for a few seconds. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to do this the whole time.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, hey, can I just make me do more reps? I think I'd rather do that. Yeah. So goals for the future. So first of all, we're in this, like, I'm almost tired of hearing the word unprecedented or unprecedented events. You know, I'm almost like don't want to hear that phrase anymore because of how, you know, often it's been used. But it's actually, I have to say, it probably hasn't actually been overused, because that's probably the only way to describe the really weirdness of all of the stuff going on right now. And I have to say that if it wasn't for the gym, I mean, we had that 2 months when everything was closed down, and I thought I was going to die. And you don't realize, like, how much you rely on the gym to relieve stress.
Yes.
And I mean, for me, if that's the only thing that I got out of it, then it would be worth it.
Absolutely. Yep.
But, you know, I went to your YouTube channel because I was like, come on, John, you got to have something for bands, you know, during this time. And voila, you did. And you did. Yeah. So I ordered some bands, and I don't know, I used them a couple times. And it's just not the same. It's not, because, you know, the gym is not just about the workout, right? It's
agree,
about like the community, and it's about the vibe, and
that's why I don't have my own gym. Everybody asks me, why don't you have your own gym? A home gym. Everybody says, why don't you have a home gym? Yeah. It's not the same, man. I like to interact with people. I like to talk to people. I like to say hi. Like, it's a community to me. I've never had any desire to have a home gym.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's funny because that's what people asked me too, and I was like, well, first of all, my wife has too much stuff. There's no place to put. Okay,
yeah.
No, but there's just, even if I did, I don't know that I would want to use it. I'd have the same. It would be the same thing with the bands. You know, I'd do it a couple times, and I'd be like, this is not really what's happening. But, you know, seeing the same people about the same time of day, you know, like I said, the community aspect of it, the stress relief, the routine, okay, what am I going to wear at the gym this morning? Okay, all right, let me get my supplements together. What am I going to take before the gym? Okay, let me get my protein for after the gym. All of that stuff, getting in the car, driving over to the gym. It's just a rhythm to it. And I missed that so much. I couldn't wait to go back. And, and we were months into being back in the gym before my parents still live up in Michigan, right? So they, he was still, the gym's still locked down, everything's still locked down, still can't go anywhere. My dad, I think where I get the work ethic, as far as like working out, actually work ethic for everything is from my dad. And I remember I told him, I was like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm training 5 days a week. This is before the pandemic. Yeah, he says, that's good. I'm going 6 days. I was like, come on, man. You got to let me win something.
Yeah.
You got to let me have something, man. But he's in there and he's 72. Is he 72 now? 71? He's 71 or 72. And he is, still super active, and he does what he wants. He's been retired for a long time now. And, I just want to be in, good shape like he is and happy to do stuff. But, with this whole pandemic, how has this sort of affected the training and all the other stuff that you do with your business?
Well, it initially had a negative effect. Back in about April is when it really hurt my businesses, April and May. A large part of my revenue actually comes from my YouTube channel. And, when people can't go to the gym, most of my videos are about what you do when you go to the gym. So when people aren't going to the gym, they're not going to watch a video about what to do in the gym. And I didn't feel it was right to make videos in the gym knowing that people couldn't even go in the gym. I just think that would be in poor taste. So I was making band videos. I was making just sit down videos, but my, the revenue I made from my YouTube went way down. People weren't buying training programs off my website because they couldn't go to the gym. Like, why buy a training program if you can't use it? So it was, we had a couple months where, in my supplement business, sorry, it's getting late. So I own a company called Granite Supplements. That's, it's a good sized company, and people aren't going to the gym, so they're not buying supplements. So all the different businesses I have were, took a hit in April and May. And then once the gyms opened back up, the businesses were all booming, and now they're doing really well. But, but there was that 2-month period where it was like, I was probably at 25% revenue where I'm normally at per month. I didn't panic or anything because, I've lived below my means for decades now, so I'm fine. But luckily, once the gyms reopened, my businesses all came back. They're doing great. Now I'm I'm having a better year overall this year to date than I even did last year. So it's all worked out fine. But there was an initial hit for sure when all that happened. And but things happened. It happened. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
So you just got to deal with it.
So since you've had sort of a boom with your business, I mean, do you have some plans, some expansion goals, or any of that kind of thing?
Well, my coaching business, I like, but it's very time consuming, and I'm constantly trying to do less of it. I like to coach, but I don't like for my days to be dictated by coaching all the time. My supplement business has grown tremendously this year. We're 60% over what we were last year this time. So, hopefully we'll finish strong and, maybe 70, 80% of the business or, more than we had last year. So it's doing really well. But what I really love too is I like coaching football. And that's something I make no money at, but I get a lot of personal joy out of it. And so I spent a lot of time doing football things. And so I've got some conversations I'll be having in the next month to talk about things I can potentially do in football locally around here. But honestly, man, I love football. So I'm kind of headed off in some directions where it doesn't have anything to do with money. It's just self-satisfaction, doing things I love. But I'm in a position where I can do that now. So I'm very blessed. I'm very thankful for that.
Well, John, thank you so much for your time and energy. Again, like I said, thanks for agreeing to do this interview. I think this is going to be really informative and interesting for folks watching. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I think when people ask me that question, I want to tell you what comes to mind. So I just wish people would treat each other a little better these days. This has nothing to do with our interview, but I just wish people would appreciate each other. I wish we would be there for each other more. I wish we would empathize with others more and what they're going through in life. And I wish we would just love each other more. I just wish that people had more love in their hearts. And again, I know that's completely off the rails and what this conversation was about, but that's something I wanted to share. And I just hope that people can start to be a little better toward each other. And I think it's important to talk about that these days because it's important. It's important that it's just important. I think it's just something that needs to be said more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, and kind to each other even if you don't agree.
Right.
Willing to have conversations when you are totally disagree on topics and being cordial and still caring about the other person and still not thinking the worst of them.
Yeah.
Or, because they don't agree with you on something.
That's right.
Our countries, it seems that our real national religion is national politics. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing that I can think of because, I'm a Christian. I couldn't run around telling people, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell or something. I mean, I couldn't do that because people would really quickly, they would judge me and they would, they'd get me out of there.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't work well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But with our national politics, if someone says, you know what, I'm not going to vote, people almost feel that it's their responsibility to try to bully you into voting then. Or I'm more of kind of a third party kind of voter. Oh, that's a wasted vote. And if they're a supporter of Trump, then that's a vote for Biden. Or if they're for Biden, well, that's in all of that, so it's interesting how that goes that way. But if we could just be more cordial and more understanding, more respectful, all of the things that you said, it would make it a better world and make it more bearable what we're likely going to have to go through over the next several months to get hopefully to the end of this pandemic.
That's right. Things are tough enough as is, and we don't need to make it any harder on ourselves, right? So
Right.
Yep.
Well, God bless you, man.
Same to you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I hope you got at least some nuggets from me that you found kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, no, it's all interesting, man. I'm eating it up, and I think our audience will too.
Good. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and I'm still a member of Lifetime. I just been going over to American Barbell, so I'll be back in there one of these days. I'll see you.
All right, man. You have a good one.
All right. Thanks. You too.
All right now.